Hello and welcome. My name is Jen Weeks and this is the Neurodiversity lecture series organised by LVS Hassocks and LVS Oxford. The focus of my presentation today is looking at teaching and learning strategies. And I think the key thing to remember is that if you've met one individual with autism, you've met one individual with autism. And autism is a spectrum. It varies to person, and it's a lifelong developmental disability. So people will present in very different ways, and as a result of that, strategies need to be adapted. One size certainly does not fit all. One thing to really think about with autism, and in particular memory, is that some with autism will have difficulty in recalling some of those events that may have happened. And don't just presume that what you think is really obvious, they've got and understood. Some will have difficulties with working out the order of events, timing of events, recalling particular things as how they happened. Some people may have difficulty in perhaps that personal experienced way of engaging with the event, and particularly trying to communicate that in a way that is understandable by all. There are some various strategies. I think one is the key thing is don't just presume that everyone has understood everything. Meaning is varied for those with an autistic person. It may be very much at a surface level. It may not be fully understanding that whole situation and getting the bigger picture. Understanding the behaviour and correct ways to behave in a situation alongside managing the sensory environment can be very, very difficult and sometimes can be overwhelming, which means that learning and taking on information can be much harder. So if we're looking at it in terms of education, thinking about your classroom in particular, is it friendly for those who have autism? Is it cluttered? Does it have loads of things on the walls which may make it quite sensory overload for people? Are there clear, distinct areas that help people understand what needs to be done? Are there the use of visuals? And visuals are really important. Our entire society supports us with visuals. We're driving on the motorway, we have visual signs to tell us what's happening in terms of roadworks or slowing down, or if there's a bridge ahead or a bend. We operate a lot via visuals in society, but we sometimes overlook that within our classroom and just presume that loads of text will support it. When you're teaching in your classroom, are you using a lot of auditory information which might be overloading and people can forget very easily what you may have said? Are there sensory needs in your classroom? Are the sensory needs of those students in your classroom being met? Or is there too much distraction on the walls? So considering if we want successful teaching and learning, is the environment right in the first place? Starting lessons is also really key. Is it clear what the expectations are of that particular lesson? What is it that that student is going to be learning? How are they going to be learning it? What do they need? What are the activities? How do they get help? How do they know if they've got success or not? And thinking about how you may communicate that in a form of a visual aid may also be beneficial. The language we use in learning is vital. And in particular, that praise, that understanding and sharing feelings and emotions, the problem-solving statements, helping our students advocate for themselves, and using sort of declaration language as a way of supporting that. So, using visuals. Visuals can be used in a multiple way. One format can be giving task boards, for example, or communication boards, so that the student can advocate if they can't verbalise what they need, they can point or add something to a particular box to show what they're needing. Task sheets, in particular, the example currently indicating how much perhaps is needing to be written to support that student complete that piece of task. Perhaps no different than students working at GCSE levels, understanding how much they should write for a 4-mark answer question versus that of a 12-mark answer question. Some students really need prompting to prepare themselves for changes ahead. The idea of giving that information to them in a way in which they can process that with enough time so it doesn't become a shock, doesn't become overwhelming for them. Now in next cards, again, helping support the students know, now this is what I've got to do, and then my next task is going to be that. Removing that ambiguity from learning. The meeting of sensory needs is also really important when thinking about trying to support students with their learning. Fidget toys, or fidget tools in particular, can really help. Thinking about giving students an opportunity to do a movement break. That doesn't mean they need to leave the classroom. It might mean that they just get out of their seat, walk to the front of the classroom and walk back. Is there something for them to fiddle with their hands? Or is there something that they can put on themselves, for example, a weighted blanket, to help them meet some of that sensory needs, to make them feel grounded? Sometimes just a heavy backpack with books in it might help some of those students do that. Noise level control can sometimes be very difficult with understanding what's appropriate noise and what's not appropriate noise. And again, a visual to help students understand indoor voice and outdoor voice, and especially working in a classroom where you've got multiple learners with perhaps multiple different needs, indicating what is appropriate at this moment in time, and also communicating with the student and backwards that they're struggling with the noise level. This feeds into the zones of regulation. Supporting students understand, are they ready to learn in the first place? What zone are they emotionally in terms of learning? If a student is in the red zone, they're never going to be in the moment to be able to learn. You want students in the green zone or neutral zone, perhaps enabling them to process the information, access their information. Their emotions are not taking over them. Understanding and de-escalating sometimes negative emotions for students is a part of that learning strategy, and checking in with them. Where are you now? How are you feeling? You could have the colours of the cards just out on a desk, and students can indicate so that they can identify that perhaps they're struggling, or perhaps they're getting fizzy. Thank you very much, and I hope you just found these strategies very useful in a very short moment in time that might be useful to your classroom. Thank you.